I don't know what just happened here. We have an ice raid. Just broke loose here in Minnesota. What just happened?
They just counterbound everything.
For what?
I don't fucking know. I don't want to talk to you.
What just happened?
They just stole people. They just fucking kidnapped people and they drove away. They gave no warrants. They gave no badge numbers. They gave no names. They said, I don't have a name when we asked. And then they fucking threw someone on the ground and took him too. And then, in the midst of all that, they shot tear gas with us. We are in the worst AQI that I've seen in my lifetime in this city. And you know who the main contributor to climate change is? The fucking American military-industrial complex. And what do? They come out here, they have the audacity to kidnap our neighbors and then to shoot us with tear gas when we decline to consent. Fuck them!
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're here to unpack the key details, the insights from the sources you've shared with us.
And today we're diving into some pretty intense material covering recent federal law enforcement operations in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and specifically the community responses, which were quite strong based on these reports.
Absolutely.
Our mission, really, is to sift through all this information, the news coverage, the reports, just to get a handle on what actually happened on the ground.
Right. Who was involved? What were the different angles, the reactions?
Exactly. And what were the underlying tensions that these sources seem to reveal? Okay, so let's get into it.
Well, the first thing that jumps out, I think, is that this wasn't just one spot. The sources make it clear these were simultaneous operations.
Happening across different parts of LA.
Yeah, multiple places at once.
That's a key point, the simultaneous nature. So where exactly did the sources say these were taking place?
Okay, so the material points to several search warrants being executed. Definitely Ambiance Apparel headquarters in the Fashion District. Some Home Depot stores in the Westlake District were mentioned. A donut shop, too.
A donut shop.
Yeah, and then there was mention of other sites that weren't specifically named in what we saw.
And the agencies involved, these were federal, right? No ambiguity there.
And definitely federal. The sources name ICE, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, DHS, Department of Homeland Security.
FBI, too.
FBI, yeah, and the DEA as well.
Yeah.
So it's significant federal presence.
And what about the immediate results? People detained?
Right. So ICE reported detaining at least 44 people.
Yeah.
That was their number.
Okay, at least 44.
But the sources also brought in the perspective of immigration advocates. They put the number a touch higher, maybe up to 45 detained.
And they framed it differently, too, didn't they?
They did. The advocates described them specifically as warrantless arrests, which points to, well, different legal interpretations right off the bat.
Yeah, that conflict in the numbers and the language, it really highlights how tough it was, even for reporters on the scene, to get one clear picture. And it definitely shows, like you said, the deep distrust and the different ways people were seeing these actions legally. And
there was another detail from the video transcript covering one of the locations. Agents were seen taking out electronic devices from a building.
Interesting. Any idea why?
Well, the sources didn't say definitively, but there was speculation. Could it be looking into financial stuff, labor practices maybe, something potentially broader than just immigration status?
Okay, so layers, potentially. Let's maybe dig into one specific place the sources detailed heavily. Ambiance Apparel in the Fashion District. The video transcript sounds like it captured a lot there.
It really did. You had agents, FBI, Homeland Security, ICE inside that building for, well, quite a while, according to the reporters.
And they were bringing people out.
Yeah, people were observed being brought out, put into custody. The estimate from that one location alone was maybe around a couple dozen people.
Wow, just from that one spot.
Right. And while that's happening inside, outside, things were changing.
A crowd started gathering.
Yeah, first just kind of surrounding the building. But the sources say it grew, got larger.
To the point where they needed backup.
Exactly. Reinforcements came in, more FBI agents, and these armored tactical vehicles. Bearcats, they were called.
Bearcats. Okay, that sounds serious. Brought in for crowd control.
That's what the sources indicated, yeah. The situation was clearly escalating fast.
And this is where things got physical. The sources mentioned scuffles.
Yeah, that's where it really heated up. According to the reports, as the agents tried to get vans in and out to transport the people they detained.
People tried to stop them.
Well, yeah, a significant scuffle broke out. The crowd wasn't just standing by. They were reacting very actively to what was going on.
Right. The video showed the crowd actually moved, didn't it, from the front around to the back.
Shifted focus to the rear, which seemed to be where the detentions were physically happening.
And the agents put up tape?
Yeah, yellow security tape, trying to create, a boundary, keep people away from the gate where the vans were moving.
So this community response, it wasn't just watching, it became actual protest at the site.
Oh, definitely. The sources describe protests erupting right there. And the peak tension seemed to be when the agents were actually trying to leave.
That sounds incredibly tense. The video showed people trying to block the vehicles.
Actively obstructing, yeah. People running into the street, literally putting their bodies in front of the vans and SUVs. The reporter called them close calls.
You can imagine that friction between the crowd and the agents must have been palpable.
Yeah, the sources used the phrase, the crowd was not very happy, which feels like maybe an understatement given the descriptions.
And the agents responded with force. What did the sources say they used?
Well, news sources mentioned pepper spray, smoke grenades being used to disperse people.
Okay.
The video transcript was a bit more specific, noting agents had gas canisters. It describes them using something that pushed people back from the gate area.
But the reporter wasn't sure exactly what.
Yeah, wasn't sure precisely what it was or even who threw it, though. One reporter noted they didn't see civilians throwing canisters. It also mentions agents using shields, physically pushing people back.
Wow. And there was that one really dangerous incident mentioned in the video transcript.
Yeah, that was stark. A person apparently stood right in front of an SUV.
Oh my God.
Put their hands on the hood, started backpedaling as the SUV moved forward, then lost their footing, fell.
And got hit.
Described as being partly ran over, which sounds terrifying.
Did they? Were they okay?
The reporter said they did eventually get up, seemed okay, maybe lost a shoe, but still incredibly dangerous.
Unbelievable. Just chaos. And a bike got hit, too.
Yeah, a bicycle was also struck in a crosswalk during all that chaotic departure.
Were there any prominent people involved in the protests?
The sources did identify David Huerta, who's the president of CAU California. He was apparently among those reported injured during the protests.
Okay, so union leadership involved and injured. And the protests didn't just stay there, right? They moved downtown.
That's right. Later that evening, the sources say over 300 demonstrators marched downtown.
And back at the ambiance site, there was even like an organized element, a truck with speakers.
Yeah, a flatbed truck, had signs, a loudspeaker. They were apparently encouraging the crowd to stay put, which suggests, some level of coordination in the protest effort there.
Okay, so that's the scene on the ground. What about official reactions from the city, LAPD?
Well, LAPD Chief Jim McDonald put out a statement. He acknowledged LAPD knew about the ICE operations.
And that they'd cause anxiety, right?
Yeah, he understood that. But he was very clear, quoted saying, LAPD is not involved in civil immigration enforcement.
So drawing a line.
A clear line. He said LAPD would be visible, but only for public safety. They would not help with mass deportations, wouldn't ask about immigration status.
And he mentioned that's a long-standing policy.
Yeah, said it's been LAPD policy since 1979.
What about the mayor, Karen Bass?
Her reaction was strong, too, according to the sources. Expressed deep anger.
And what was her reasoning?
She was quoted saying, these tactics sow terror that they disrupt basic principles of safety in the city. Pretty forceful language.
And a congresswoman weighed in, too.
Yes, Sidney Kamlager-Dove. She condemned the raids and specifically highlighted LA's status as a sanctuary city.
Which makes these kinds of federal actions even more contentious locally.
Exactly. She basically criticized the feds for destabilizing communities with these actions.
So you have the official city line trying to create distance, express concern. But the sources also captured an activist perspective, right? Someone named Ron Gochaz.
Yeah, Ron Gochaz, a representative with Union de LA, he was interviewed by phone, gave a very different take.
How did he frame it?
His reaction was very strong. He blamed the raids entirely on the Trump administration, called them, and this is a direct quote from the source, ICE terrorist attacks against our community.
Wow, strong words. Did he have a view on who was being targeted?
He felt it was clearly workers. Not criminals, he said, but people just trying to work, feed their families. That was his perspective.
And the community response he saw.
He described it as the people of L.A. mentioning people of all colors, religions, ethnicities as rising up and demanding an end to these attacks.
Okay, so seeing it as a broad-based resistance, did he mention the LAPD?
He did, and his view was, well, completely opposite to Chief McDonald's statement.
How so?
He alleged that LAPD was clearly collaborating, said they were protecting the operation, keeping the protesters away, directly contradicting the official LAPD line.
That's a serious allegation. Did he provide any other details?
He also shared information that he said he'd received about the detainees' conditions.
What kind of conditions?
He was quoted saying he was told more than 200 people were supposedly held at the downtown LA courthouse in a dungeon downstairs with no restrooms, not enough food and water.
Okay, hold on. He said 200 people, but the earlier numbers were around 45.
Yeah, that's a huge discrepancy. It's important to note the source presents this as his claim based on information he said he received. He called these alleged conditions a violation of all human rights.
So, conflicting numbers and serious allegations about conditions presented as coming from his sources. What was his call to action?
He basically said people have a right to resist. Protest is a First Amendment right. And he felt LAPD wasn't allowing it. He actually announced a protest for later that day at the LA Federal Detention Center.
And did he put this into a bigger context?
Yeah, he framed it as something happening daily across the country, said they were organizing to stop more people being taken. He argued the city runs on our work and they needed to defend themselves.
It's really striking, isn't it? The gap between how local police leadership described their role and how this activist saw it playing out on the ground.
Absolutely. It shows just how contested the situation was, with immediate disputes over who was doing what and why, all captured in the sources.
So zooming out a bit, how did the sources frame the bigger picture here?
They generally position these operations as fitting into broader national immigration crackdowns that were happening.
Linked to the administration at the time.
Yeah, linked in the sources to directives from President Trump aiming for mass deportations. That was the context provided.
And it's worth remembering, like you said earlier, that even the journalists on scene weren't immediately sure of the exact reason for the raids everywhere, right?
Right. There was that initial uncertainty. Was it purely immigration, or was there something else, like financial or labor issues connected to the businesses, though ICE did confirm the immigration detentions later.
So the sources really lay out these different perspectives very clearly.
They do. You have one side, sort of implicit in the federal actions reported, that these operations are about enforcing laws, a legal process for people here illegally.
And the other side?
Very vocal in the sources from advocates and the activists. These raids are highly controversial. They tear families apart. They target working people. Workers was the term used, not necessarily serious criminals.
And doing this in a place like Los Angeles, a sanctuary city.
It just dials up the intensity, right? Puts federal actions right up against local policies and deeply held community feelings. And the sources kept pointing out the sheer scale of the federal presence, tactical gear, armored vehicles. It wasn't subtle.
So how did things eventually wrap up at that main site, the Ambiance Apparel location?
Well, eventually, the agents and their vehicles did manage to leave. The video showed it was a slow process.
Difficult, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes driving in reverse, trying to navigate through the streets and the remaining crowd, which apparently followed alongside them for a bit.
But the people who were detained, they were already gone by then.
Right. The sources made that clear. The detainees had been removed in the vans earlier during all the commotion.
And once the agents left?
The reporters noted that most federal personnel eventually cleared the immediate area, and that large crowd on Stanford Avenue, where the main confrontation was, it started to thin out, die down once the agents were gone.
Okay, so the immediate incident resolved. But the sources still left some things hanging, didn't they? Some unanswered questions.
Definitely. Despite all the coverage, some key details remain a bit fuzzy based only on these sources.
Like the exact nature of the raids across all the locations, beyond just immigration enforcement.
Exactly. What was the specific legal basis or goal at each spot? That wasn't fully laid out in the material we reviewed.
And where did the detainees end up? And that conflicting number, was it 44, 45, or that much higher number the activists claimed?
Right. No definitive answer in these sources on the final destination or a single agreed-upon total number detained across all sites.
Plus, the reason for taking those electronic devices from that one building, still kind of unclear.
Still unclear based on this information, yeah.
So, okay. What does this all mean for you listening? We've just done a deep dive into these sources covering some really intense federal operations in LA.
Yeah, we've seen the immediate actions, the detentions, the very strong, sometimes volatile community reaction.
And the different takes on it, from official city statements trying to manage the situation to activist perspectives framing it as an attack.
We saw how things unfolded on the ground. The scuffles, the tactical gear, the protests, the allegations about conditions.
It really throws a spotlight on that complex intersection between big federal policies like immigration enforcement and what happens in local communities, especially places with sanctuary policies.
And the methods used, the level of force, the impact on people. It's all part of that picture the sources paint.
Which really brings up a crucial question, I think, based on everything we've just unpacked from these sources. How do you, as someone trying to understand events like this, navigate the information when different sources, different voices, offer such dramatically different interpretations of the exact same actions?
Yeah, not just disagreeing on what happened, but fundamentally disagreeing on why it happened and what it actually means for the people involved and the community as a whole. That's a tough thing to sort through.
So that's just an ice raid that took place?
What'd you say?
Was that just an ice raid that took place?
Yes.
How many people did they take?
I don't know. I saw one, and I think more were taken before I arrived, but I don't know.
Yeah, what the fuck is this? Someone get that to the news. This is so fucked up.
The police also started tear gas and pepper spraying. The people have FBI here in camouflage up here. Have a car right here as well. I don't know how many people they just took, but I was just literally driving and hopped out of the car and this happened.
Our streets! 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 Yeah, don't fucking touch
And we have people here pushing the cops right here. And now they took them.
We need your fucking protection from these guys. Help us! The cops won't fucking protect us from these fucking FBI agents.
An ice raid has taken place here in Minneapolis. Cops, SWAT team, FBI, whoever's out here, that's going to be taking over the streets, and people are taking the streets. I didn't know what has happened. I was literally driving, filming a completely separate video, and then I got out of the car because they had taken over this whole entire block. This was happening on the streets. Here you have the police, right here you have the police right behind me, and you have the FBI, and you have a huge group, another group, and you have another group of law enforcement behind us, and then you have another group chanting our streets.
I'll get you a job. I can get you a good paying job. I can get you a good paying job. Put the gun down. I'll get you a job. You're fucking hired. Please, man.
This guy's FBI guys.
Shame on you! 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 Shame on you!
All of these people right here are blocking ICE from leaving the streets or in front of this car. Shame on you, you're not letting the police move, the law enforcement move. And here's FBI coming through right now.
Shame on you!
You are now in the mix with Mastermind DJs. 80s baby, Fino, F-E-N-O. Come on, y'all, represent. Back in the days, we had it all so simple. Always we had to do was play Nintendo, go outside and have some fun, reminiscing on being young. Back in the days we had it all so simple. All we had to do was play Nintendo, go outside and have some fun, reminiscing on being young. Yeah, mama, you remember when we used to say them things like back in the days when you had to go to the arcade to play the games? Back when everybody had fat laces. Back before everybody that you knew had cases. Back when Saturday mornings was a cartoon occasion. Back when Jordans was the hottest thing you could step on the block with. Should've held on to it like some stock and actually outperform Apple if you still got the box. G.I. Joes, wrestling men, Transformers that never do it like that again. Back in the days it was all so simple. All we had to do was play Nintendo, go outside and have some fun, reminiscing on being young. Back in the days we had it all so simple. All we had to do was play Nintendo, go outside and have some fun, reminiscing on being young. Remember Garbage Pail Kid stickers and all the cars that came with the gum in it? The rest